Director Sean Durkin brings the tragic tale of the legendary wrestling family, the Von Erichs, to the big screen in The Iron Claw. This is probably my most anticipated film of 2023. I only really saw the trailers for it for the last couple months, but it looked to be a serious, dark tale about brotherly love and family camaraderie and tragedy. Now, all I knew about going into this film about the Von Erichs was every time I ever read the words the Von Erichs or the Von Erich family, it always had the word tragic or sad next to it. Or if anybody said anything aloud, it was always, boy, that was a shame. So I'm like, I know this film is not going to be a comedy. And certainly it's not. The trailer does not really betray how sad this film is, and I'm not going to say much about it, but be prepared for an ultimately very grim ride. It does a wonderful job at depicting the family, depicting the brothers in the family, minus one, and I'll get back to that later, and how that dynamic worked. Basically, the story of the Von Erichs, I'm not going to tell you really anything about the movie per se, was that the father, Fritz Von Erich, portrayed here by Holt McCallany, the older character in Mindhunter, and the young Native American with the long straight hair in Creepshow 2. Him. He plays the father, Fritz Von Erich, who was a wrestler in his day, let's say somewhere in the 50s or 60s, I believe. He's retired, and he is bringing his sons up into the family business. Mr. Von Erich, Fritz Von Erich, runs a wrestling promotion campaign in Texas in a company and has his own dome where he puts on these shows. And one by one, he brings his sons into the fold. So this film is the story of those sons, how they deal with their father, how they deal with each other, the incredibly strong bond those brothers had, and the unfortunate circumstances that ran throughout the family history. We're just going to say that much about it, in case you don't know. Now, there's a website I love called History vs. Hollywood that I always go to as soon as I see a film that's based on a true story to see after the fact. I don't want to taint my experience of watching it. The film is the film, but I want to know how accurate the film was, what got changed, did certain things really happen, what do the real people look like, and all that. So on the way back from watching The Iron Claw, I did that, and apparently The Iron Claw is very accurate, minus a couple of things. One is that there was another brother that is not depicted in this film. There was a brother, Chris Von Erich, who was the youngest, and for reasons of timing and story flow, he is left out of the film. So some elements of the Chris Von Erich story are woven into the youngest brother depicted in the film, Mike Von Erich, and anybody who is a fan of the Von Erichs may go to this movie and go, there was one more guy. And yes, there was. He's just not in this movie. But according to everything else, the Kevin Von Erich is portrayed by Zac Efron in this film, who is almost unrecognizable. He looks very Jack Kirby. Let's just say that. He looks like if you were to make a live-action version of the Hulk or the Fantastic Four with the Thing now, and you wanted to just go with a guy in makeup and not CGI, Zac Efron, as he looks in this film, could step right into that Marvel movie or Marvel TV show circa 1978. Very impressive. And everybody in this is really good. It's the stellar cast. Maura Tierney plays the mother. Not too many faces you'd recognize. You have Harris Dickinson as David Von Erich. You have, let me just jiggle the mouse here, sorry, giving away how I do this. Jeremy Allen White as Carrie Von Erich, and Stanley Simons as Mike Von Erich. And it's just this story about family and about wrestling. And the wrestling scenes are really well done. There's a great sequence that's kind of hinted at in the trailer where Rush's Tom Sawyer starts playing, and they go into this montage of the three brothers in the ring just taking down enemies and doing the moves, and it's like really impressive. It's really well shot. None of this shaky camera, fast edit, camera too close bogosity that we've dealt with for so many years now. It's really well done, gorgeously photographed, really well performed. The score is great. The period tunes that they use in the score for this film, it's really, really good. But as this movie ended, just the crowd that was there just kind of sat there in silence as the credits rolled, and I said this was like the ending of American Sniper, where everybody's walking out like a funeral just got out, because it's a very depressing movie. Just know that going in. But also know going in that Zac Efron is really good in this, and Holt McCallany is really. Everybody is really good in this, and it's a great slice of the era. Having lived through the period of time this movie takes place in, it's felt very authentic to that period of time. You have, Lily James. That's the other recognizable person. So Lily James plays Pam, who would go on to be the paramour, shall we say. I'm not going to even give away whether anybody gets married in this. She's the paramour of Kevin Von Erich, and sort of one of the voices of calmness and sanity in this film when things start getting really out of control. So if you're a fan of wrestling, this is certainly a film you want to see. Even if you're not a fan of wrestling, this peels back the curtain a little bit on wrestling and shows kind of how it's done, so to speak, but also pays tremendous respect to everybody involved. So one of the best movies of the year. It was worth the wait for me. It was like I said, one of the ones I was most looking forward to, but also one of the most powerful and dramatic films that I saw in the theater this year. Yes, it's about wrestling, which a lot of people find low culture and disposable and all that. If as I said, if you don't like wrestling, put that aside. This is a great movie about people, and at the core, it's a film about family and how far family will go to support each other and do not even what's necessarily best for themselves if they think they might be doing the best for somebody else. Great film in theaters now. The Iron Claw.